Back here on the Anthony Carlo Show. Thank you for joining me today. WICR, right here in the basement of La Penta on a cold afternoon. What better place could you want to be than right here with me? So that was a good one. I should write that one down so I don't forget it. That was they come off the top of my head sometimes. Sometimes I just have to let it go randomly, and I think of these one-liners. But in case you missed the opening monologue to my show, I was discussing the Yankees last night and their ability to scratch a couple of runs across the plate in order to come back and win a game. What do you know? And it's a telltale sign of good things, better things to come, I should say, than what most people are expecting from the Yankees, because I can tell you one thing. If they can do that, they'll be in a much better position than they were last year when, as I mentioned earlier, they definitely were struggling offensively as a team, and to be able to make a comeback happen like it did last night, even though they got help from a wild pitch, another hit by batter, it helps. And then a little base knock by Chase Headley, which really, in essence of itself, was a hard ground ball back to Brett Cecil, who was pitching for the Blue Jays at the time. So there were no big home runs. There was no flashiness. It was the Yankees down 3-1, wind up winning the game 4-3 by stringing together a rally, if you want to call it that. But it's a good sign, believe me. So, talking about baseball, why not we continue on this track and discuss the rest of the American League East? One thing I haven't done so far is make my picks for this year on who's going to win the divisions, who's going to win the 2 wild cards. So why not we get into that? I can't guarantee you we'll finish that today. I'm only on for about another 25 minutes. But I can do my best to make some picks, review a little bit what I think will be happening this year overall in the Major League Baseball, or on the Major League Baseball scene, and not just in New York. Take a look over at the arch rival Boston Red Sox. Now the Red Sox, they made some moves this past offseason. They brought over guys like Hanley Ramirez. They brought over Pablo Sandoval. Of course, they got Rick Porcello in that deal with the Tigers. So they made some moves, and when it's all said and done, you look at this team, they've got Hanley Ramirez via the depth chart in left field, and they've got Mookie Betts in center, they've got Shane Victorino in right. That's a solid outfield to me, because you know what? Hanley Ramirez is somebody, if he can stay healthy, going to put up good power numbers, going to be a productive offensive player for you. Mookie Betts, coming along as a young outfielder, it's nice to know that between him and Xander Bogaerts over at shortstop in the infield, that they've got a combination of veteran leadership and some young players who can contribute. So Shane Victorino over in right, another productive player, somebody who's going to offensively contribute and has a great arm over in right field. I'm expecting a lot out of the Boston Red Sox this year. I think they tumbled and fell last year, and the Red Sox are a very unique team. Obviously, the Yankees had their number. If you go back in the past decade, there were times when they made deep postseason runs, and the evil empire there was there to end it by the time it was all said and done. And then you had the Red Sox overcoming the Bronx Bombers and finally breaking the curse, and everything was going in their favor. And now we've kind of gotten into the pattern of one year, all of a sudden they're a World Series contender, and all of a sudden the next year they're at the bottom of their division. And it's interesting. So, you never see teams playing both ends of the spectrum as often as the Red Sox have been doing in recent years. I expect good things from this team this year. You look in their pitching staff, Clay Buchholz, Rick Porcello, Justin Masterson. Masterson, not the greatest year with the Cleveland Indians last year, but we saw his ability to be an ace for that team. I think that he's now back with the Red Sox where it all started for him. I think that he'll have a bounce-back year, and if you look at those number 1 to 3 starters, you're looking at a good top of the rotation. Offensively, I think they made leaps and bounds this year by bringing over Hanley Ramirez and Pablo Sandoval. I mean, you've brought over 2 guys who can provide you with 20, 25 home runs, drive in easily 90 runs, and do good things for you in the middle of that order. So I'm looking for the Red Sox to be somewhere towards the top of the division. I really have no doubts on whether or not the Red Sox can win this division. I believe they really can. I believe they can, and I will put my money on the Boston Red Sox in first place this year in the American League East based on the moves they made. Now, of course, Joe Kelly, we can't forget about him. He's somebody they also got from the Cardinals. Joe Kelly, that young pitcher. I don't know if you remember him a couple of years ago in I believe it was the National League Championship Series. It might have been the NLDS. I believe it was the NLCS. Pitched a big game, showed a lot of poise, a lot of control in a big, big moment. So Joe Kelly, despite starting the year on the 15-day disabled list, he is definitely going to be a contributor when he comes back to Boston. So we're going to move over now. We're going to discuss the rest of the American League East. And when you're talking about the American League East, we have to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays, which is a team that the Yankees just finished winning a game against last night. They'll go into a rubber match. That one will be set for CC Sabathia, making his first regular season start of the 2015 campaign up against Norris of the Blue Jays. But if you look at this team, not a bad team by any means. Justin Smoke comes over from this team from the Seattle Mariners. Of course, Josh Donaldson, another big move they made, and Russell Martin, another big move they made. You know, people, I think, like to look over the Toronto Blue Jays based on the fact that they've made big offseason moves before, such as the year they brought over Jose Reyes. They made specific moves that really didn't amount to anything in the end, and they were projected to have their year, so to speak. So I think that when people look at the moves they made this year, they may wonder, well, we've seen this team make moves before. We haven't really seen much come of it. But let's be honest here, ladies and gentlemen. We have to break this down on an even level here and realize that despite what they've done in the past with offseason acquisitions, this year the acquisitions they've brought over are by no means at all shabby players. Josh Donaldson over at the hot corner, this guy has proven that he can be a power guy in the middle of the order for you. Combine him with a Jose Bautista, and I mean, you are in good shape. Not to mention that Jose Reyes, I mean, in fantasy news, they got this guy top 3 on the shortstop list. They're expecting this guy to do big things this year. I've never had a whole lot of faith in Jose Reyes based on his injury resume and his age at this point, but if he can give you 10 home runs, driving 60 RBIs, steal 30 bases, and stay healthy, about 290, that is a solid shortstop, despite the age that he's at. Justin Smoke, another big bat that they bring over from the Mariners, somebody who can definitely make some noise, maybe be a good number 5 hitter for you. You can't forget about Edwin Encarnacion, another player who's very injury plagued, but when he's on the field, the guy hits the long ball better than anybody out there today. I mean, he had 35 home runs last year, and that was a year where he didn't play a complete year. You know, he had around 35 home runs. I believe he played maybe 120 games. And then you go over and you bring over Russell Martin, somebody who will be greatly missed in Pittsburgh because he took control of that pitching staff over there, and not even talking about his offense, which last year was, not to mention, in very good shape. I believe he batted .290, had a very good year offensively. Not even talking about that, his primary role is to be an anchor on that field, behind the plate, take control of the pitching staff, be a leader, and he will be providing that for the Blue Jays. And if he can continue being a productive offensive player like he was last year for Pittsburgh, had a good year at the right time when he was about to become a free agent, the Blue Jays are definitely a team you cannot overlook here. So at this point, and this is a tough decision, because then you've got Baltimore, and I'm gonna analyze everything for you right here, and I'm gonna look at the Baltimore Orioles for you right now, and I'm gonna let you know. I will let you know whether or not I think the Orioles or the Blue Jays have a shot at second place over the Yankees. I will let you know that right here on the Anthony Carlo Show. And if you look at the Baltimore Orioles, you got Adam Jones anchoring that outfield, dynamic player. Don't have to say much about him. Alejandro De Aza comes over in this offseason. Now, De Aza, solid outfielder. Travis Snyder, you've got him in right field. They let go of Nick Markakis. They let go of Nelson Cruz. Those, to me, are two key components of this Baltimore offense that in a sense, weren't really key components in recent years. Aside, I should talk about them separately because Nelson Cruz was. I mean, he put up big numbers in the signing last year. They make a late signing to get Nelson Cruz, and all of a sudden he leads the major leagues in home runs. That will be a big loss. Nick Markakis hasn't been necessarily premier Nick Markakis like he was a little bit earlier in his career for Baltimore, but he still was a leader on this team, was a productive offensive player, and anchored you out in right field. So I'm not going to say losing those two guys aren't going to make a difference, because they will. And you're going into the season really essentially looking at the middle of your order being Manny Machado, who spent much of last year on the disabled list, and it'll be interesting to see how he responds this year. Chris Davis obviously was suspended a portion of the year. He's back at it. As much as I would like to believe Chris Davis is a consistent power threat every year based on the fact that he had 50 home runs a couple of years ago, the thing about him is he may give you something like that once in a blue moon and then come back with a more down-to-earth year with 20 and 25 home runs, maybe 30, have a lot of strikeouts. So if you look at the middle of that order, you've got Manny Machado, you've got Chris Davis, and then, of course, you've got Adam Jones. And that's the best you're going to look at the middle of the order this year. And it's not a bad middle of the order at all. Now, if you look at their pitching staff, remember, this is an Orioles team who had a stellar pitching staff last year. They've got Chris Tillman, of course, Wei-Yin Chen, Miguel Gonzalez, and then Norris and Ubaldo Jimenez. So this is by no means a bad pitching staff at all. This is a pitching staff who really carried the Baltimore Orioles last year, had a big year, really across the board, those 5 starters. So it's good to know that you'll be taken care of pretty much with your starting pitching, but you cannot forget that Andrew Miller is now a New York Yankee, and one of the biggest parts of that Baltimore Oriole bullpen that was so successful last year laid in the hands of Andrew Miller. So with him gone, it's not the whole bullpen, obviously, because Zach Britton, Darren O'Day, 2 big guys, did a lot of work for them in the bullpen last year. You haven't lost them. It's not a total wash, but I'm going to tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen. I have no doubts that the Blue Jays can have a better year than the Orioles this year, and that may be coming out from left field for some people, because I think there's a lot of people that think the division's going to go Red Sox, Orioles, possibly Yankees, then Blue Jays, but I'm going to throw one out there, and I'm going to make a pick that'll be Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, Orioles, Rays. That's my picks for the American League East this year. Yeah, and I'll say them again. Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, Orioles, Rays. Now, it's a bold statement, and I think the general thought process here would be Red Sox, Orioles, Blue Jays, Yankees, Rays. But for me, you heard it first here. This is what it's going to be. Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, Orioles, Rays. We'll see if I'm right. It'll be interesting as the season comes to an end, if I'll have people calling me up telling me that I'm an idiot and laughing at me, or if you'll be calling me a genius. I'm leaning towards the genius end, because I believe that's what the American League East will look like this year when it's all said and done. I'm taking way too long on the American League East, so I'll move over to the American League West. Probably only going to get through the American League today for my picks, but that's no harm or foul. I mean, we like to take things slow here on the Anthony Carlo show. We don't like to do, I can't curse on the air, but a half bleep job here. We like to take our time and make sure that you're getting the information the way that you should be getting it. And the only way I can do that is by taking my time and not really rushing. I want to give you my picks in a fashion that you can really trust in them and not think that I'm just throwing things out there. So we'll go over to the American League West and we'll look at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Now, This team houses, of course, arguably the best player in the major leagues at the moment, reigning American League most valuable player, Mike Trout. And I've been waiting now for years for the Angels to actually make a run. And I'm not talking about a run like they did last year, where they lost to the Kansas City Royals. I believe it was in the ALDS. I'm talking about a run where they go to the American League Championship Series, they go to the World Series. Maybe they lose in the World Series, but at least they make me believe that this team actually has the potential to have a shot at winning a World Series, because they've had much more talent than they've shown. And to be the type of team that they've been and kind of get lost out there in the American League West and show that they can be successful but just not bring it home, it's frustrating. If you're an Angels fan out there, it has to be frustrating. But looking at the team this year, we realize that Mike Trout is probably going to have another big year this year. Now, Matt Joyce is in left field, solid outfielder. He'll put up some decent numbers for you. He comes over from the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, you've got Albert Pujols on this team. Eric Ibor, he's been kind of a fixture over there at shortstop. And you've got Chris Iannetta behind the plate. Now, Josh Hamilton, obviously not a great offseason. His drug relapse, a big part of that. He's on the 15-day disabled list. Josh Hamilton really, to be honest, has not put up big numbers in a while now. So when you look at this Angels team, you realize your threats here offensively are Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, and to be honest, if I had to give a third, probably Matt Joyce. And that's not too great. Now, the Angels are in a position this year to be a good team. I mean, look what the A's did. They lose Josh Donaldson to the Blue Jays. They gave, he signs with them. It can be a year that the Angels can compete for the division. It can be. But the worry this year is not with Oakland. The worry this year is with the Seattle Mariners, because the Seattle Mariners have basically been the Padres of the American League and have done the most work, not necessarily in this offseason alone, but over the past couple of years, building their team up to be ready for a run. And this very well may be the year that the Seattle Mariners make a run for the division. Now, do I have doubts with the Angels this year? If you look at their pitching rotation, Jared Weaver, C.J. Wilson, it's not the best rotation. Matt Schumacher's at that third spot. It's not the best rotation we've seen for the Angels, but this team, to me, has an opportunity to be anywhere from, I'd say, third and fourth place in the West. Now, as I was saying, we've been waiting a long time for the Angels to make some sort of move and show what they're made of, and actually go to the World Series. I don't think that this year is going to be a year that's most attainable for them. But we'll take a look now. Off the top of my head, I'm going to probably have them at a number 3 spot in the West. We'll look at the Mariners, because the Mariners are the team, as I said, you have to watch when it comes to the American League West. And if you look at the Mariners, of course, Robinson Cano, the pop on this team, Logan Morrison, good bat. They signed Nelson Cruz. So Nelson Cruz is going to be someone to look out for. Now, the Mariners are composed of a lot of young players. Logan Morrison, Smith out in right field, Austin Jackson in center field. He comes over from the Tigers. It's not, to me, it's not in the bag. I mean, I have some people saying the Mariners are going to the World Series. I'll say they're a team to watch in the West, but by no means am I saying that this team is headed for the World Series, and there are no doubts about it. Now, Justin Smoke, of course, we just mentioned earlier, he is not a member of the Mariners anymore, and you're going to have to rely on if you're going to make moves this year as a Seattle Mariners fan, you're going to have to rely on Robinson Cano having a big year. Now, whether that means with power or not, I don't know. I mean, Cano has shown that over in Seattle, he really has no business hitting the long ball. I mean, his average has been phenomenal, but other than that, it's been very much just that, and the ability to be a good hitter and not necessarily be a meat of the order hitter. But looking at this Mariners team in general, you've got a lot of youth, you've got a lot of expectations, and that's, it's not a bad thing. And you've brought over some veterans who have the ability to be powerful, like Nelson Cruz, of course the big signing with Robinson Cano. So I'm not looking for the Mariners to be a sure-in for first place in the West. And we'll look at now the Texas Rangers. And the Texas Rangers will be obviously that other team competing along with the Oakland Athletics when it comes to the Western Division of the American League. And looking at the Rangers, Prince Fielder, he missed all of last year. You know, you look at the Rangers, not a bad team again. A lot of these teams in the West, what you'll notice is a lot of them are even. They're evenly matched. Adrian, Beltre, big power guy. Elvis Andrus, I wouldn't say he has taken the next step as a shortstop and really cemented himself as an elite shortstop, but he has the potential to have a good year. You've got Chu over in right field. You've got some youngsters out in center and left in Martin and Rua. You've got Prince Fielder. You've got Mitch Moreland as your DH. Your pitching staff here is composed of you've got Gallardo. You've got Derek Holland. And you've already lost Yu Darvish this year. So again, there are a lot of strong points and a lot of downfalls between all of these teams, much of them very equal. I mean, I wouldn't say there's a lot of confidence in Seattle because of the only reason that they've got players who've got to prove something, a lot of young players. Even if they've had young players who had a great year last year, you've got to watch those sophomore slumps. You've got to watch to see if they can remain consistent. So we'll look at the Athletics last in the American League West, and I will make my picks then. And if you're looking at the Athletics, of course, they make that swap with the Blue Jays over at third for Donaldson, and they bring over Brett Lawrie. You see across the diamond, they have been the lucky fellas to bring on board Ike Davis. And Ike Davis, certainly not the biggest name, not the biggest contributor over at Citi Field. When he went to the Pirates, things looked a little bit better for him. But, you look at this Athletics team, and I really don't have any, a lot of times you look at the Athletics and you figure Moneyball makes this team, and whether they have big names or not, you figure they're going deep into the postseason. I'm not so confident about that this year. You've got Fold in left, you've got Gentry in center, you've got Ben Zobrist in right. To me, that's not a powerful outfield. You've got Brett Lawrie at third, you've got Semien at short, you've got Zobrist or Sogard at second, you've got Ike Davis at first, you've got Billy Butler, the DH. He came over from the Royals, can provide some pop. You've got Vogt behind the plate. For your pitching staff, you've got Gray, great pitcher, Kazmir, and then after that, it's Hahn, Graveman, and Pomeranz. I'm not feeling a lot of heat from this team, and like I said, when it comes to the Athletics, it's very difficult to count them out because they make use of what they have and they make runs in that fashion. But looking at the teams across the board right now, I'm going to make the call that the Angels will win the division this year. And I'm going to say that the Mariners will be in second. I'm going to say that the Rangers will be in third. And I'm going to say that the Athletics are going to be in last place this year. So, again, bold words. A lot of people have the Mariners winning the division this year. I slightly deviate from the plan, but I like to be different. And as long as you're getting my honest opinion, I mean, how could you go wrong? So, to finish this show off, We'll finish up with the American League Central, and we'll look at the teams over there. We'll take a look at the Tigers. The Tigers in this division over in the Central made some moves. Yoenis Cespedes over in left, Anthony Gose in center. You've got Martinez in right, Miguel Cabrera over at first, going to be trying to respond from that ankle injury where he had screws put in. You've got Ian Kinsler over at short. You've got Iglesias, second. You've got Iglesias at short. You've got Nick Castellanos at third. You've got Avila behind the dish. You've got Price, Anibal Sanchez, Simon Green, and Lobstein. They lost Porcello to the Red Sox. Again, a team that has loopholes. Now, to me, their loopholes will be their pitching. Remember, this was a team that had their big three, Price, Scherzer, and Porcello, at the top of their rotation for years now. And now that trio, just as LeBron, Wade, and Bosch has broken up, they have broken up. And you can't blame them. They should have won a championship based on that rotation, but they did not. And now you go on David Price being your ace and Anibal Sanchez being your number two. And it looks a whole lot different than when they had Max Scherzer being your one, David Price being your two, and Rick Porcello being your three, and then having Sanchez four. But the pitching will definitely be the area of addressing that needs to be done here. As far as the offense goes, I'm excited to watch the Tigers' offense this year. Of course, Miggy is always good for a triple crown-like year. He is getting older. He is more injury-prone, but we'll see if he'll be able to have a bounce-back year. I like watching Victor Martinez back at it, another injury-prone player, but very fun to watch on the field. As far as Yoenis Cespedes coming over, exciting player to watch. I think he'll have a big year. A's lost a lot of pop losing him. And like I said, the offense will be the strong point for this team this year. Pitching-wise, breaking up that trio, it's not going to be the number one thing I'm confident about on this team. But we'll look at what else the Central has to offer. I think that everybody wants to know whether the Kansas City Royals can make a run like they did last year. And, the answer to that is, in my opinion, I think it's going to border more along the lines of what happened to the Pirates after their very good year a couple of years ago. The Pirates, have by no means left the picture, but the question with the Royals, and the same has been with the Pirates, can they take the next step? Can the Royals not only make it to the World Series this year, but can they win it? I'm not 100% on them being in the World Series at all, to be honest with you. I think they were sort of one and done team last year. Had their big year, that's it. I mean, Moustakas, Escobar, Infante, Hosmer around the diamond, Perez behind the dish, Kendry Morales, they bring him over from Anaheim as a DH. You've got Gordon, Kane, and Rios left to right in the outfield. Team doesn't look too different from what it was last year. And based on the way they won last year, they manufactured runs. And that's why I was so happy I saw the Yankees win the way they won last night, because they learned how to manufacture runs. So the question is, can they do the same thing offensively this year and manufacture runs enough to support that pitching staff? They can. I mean, there's nothing that's going to go against that. As for their pitching, they've got Ventura, Duffy, Voquez, Vargas, and Guthrie. Not a lot of big names on this team, but there was never a lot of big names on this team, and they were in the World Series last year. So looking at the Royals, again, I don't think they're going to have as big of a year as they did last year, but don't count them out of this division. We'll finish up here looking at the last two teams, the White Sox and the Twins. And then we'll call it a day. Now, the White Sox have done poorly the past couple of years, and definitely have not been the team that you once saw with the White Sox. And that team that you once saw years back was a team that was a threat to win the Central every year. And this year, definitely will make an improvement. I don't think they're going to be at the top of the division. And the Twins, another team that a while ago was a threat to win the division and now have fallen to the bottom of the barrel, and they even went to the extent of getting rid of their manager, Ron Gardenhire, because of that, longtime Twins manager. But if you're looking at the Central and you're trying to predict who's going to win here, I'm going to make these picks. I'm going to say that winning the Central this year is going to be the Tigers. I'm going to say coming in second place in the Central, I'm going to say that the Royals will do that. In third place, the White Sox, and rounding out the division this year, I will say that the Twins, I don't really have much confidence that they'll make any leaps and bounds this year. But unfortunately here on the Anthony Carlo Show, that is all we have time for today. I know I took up a lot of your time discussing what will go down in the East. My picks once again, just to recap, in the American League East, I will have the Red Sox winning the division. For a Yankees fan, that's unfortunate to hear. In second place, the Blue Jays making a statement. The Yankees will stay in third place in the East. And in fourth place, I will say that the Orioles and then the Rays will round out in fifth place. They'll cap off that division. I'll say in the Central that the Tigers will win the division. The Royals will come in second. The White Sox in third. The Twins in fourth. And in the West, the Angels will be in first. I will say that the Mariners will be in second. The Rangers will be in third, and the Oakland Athletics will be in fourth. And that leaves us with our final statement for the day, the wild cards. I'm going to say that the American League East will be so tough that the Yankees, even though being in third, will have a shot at winning a wild card. And I'll say that the second wild card winner in the American League East is going to be, and I'll make this pick, I want to say that the Western Division will house that second wild card winner, because I feel as if the Mariners, the Angels coming in first and the Mariners coming in second, I've got to give the Mariners the wild card. They're that up-and-coming team that I believe will be making a run this year, much like the Royals of last year. So we'll go Yankees and Mariners winning those wild cards. I know it's a very optimistic thing to say the Yankees will have a wild card, but as a Yankees fan, what else do I have to look forward to than a hope that at least they'll win a wild card? Thanks for joining me today. Up next we have Chelsea and her show and her partner. I'm sorry, I don't know her name at the moment, but we'll have Chelsea's show coming up next. And they're trying to tell me that her name. What's the name of your show again? What is it? Throwback Thursday. I always forget. I'm so sorry. I always shout them out because I want you to hear their show, and then I always fail to mention the name of it. Anyway, Throwback Thursday, TBT, coming up next, right here at WICR.